Good morning, children. This is a book, a story that I will be reading to third graders when school starts up again uh, at Shades Cahaba Elementary School in Homewood, Alabama. Bonnie Bess, the Weathervane Horse, written by Alvin Tresselt and illustrated pictures by Eric Blegvad. Bonnie Bess was a trotting horse. She didn't live in a barn with other horses. She didn't carry little children on her back. She didn't graze in the pasture on the hill. She didn't even drink out of the big water trough in the barnyard. Bonnie Bess was a weathervane horse, and she swung back and forth in the wind on top of the barn. She had been there ever since the barn was built, for 100 years or more. Round and round she turned as the wind blew, north, south, east, and west. When the cold wind blew down from the north, she turned and trotted toward it. Then the farmer said, "Bess tells me that winter is on the way," and he made things snug and tight. When the warm breeze returned from the south, she turned and trotted toward it. Then the farmer said, "Bess tells me it's time to plant again," and he went out to plow his field. When the wind blew from the east, she turned and trotted toward it. Then the farmer said, "Bess tells me it's going to rain," and he brought the hay into the barn. When the wind blew from the west, she turned around again. Then the farmer said, "Bess tells me we're going to have nice weather," and he went out to work in his garden. "She's the smartest horse in the county," he said, as he sat on the porch in the evening, looking at his fields and barns, with his daughter and Kitty. One day the farmer moved away. He took his chickens and ducks. He took his cows and pigs and horses. He even took his mailbox. Then he loaded his chairs and tables and beds into a truck and drove off. But he left Bonnie Bess turning in the wind with only the barn swallows for company. Now when the wind blew down from the north, there was no farmer to make things snug and tight. There was no farmer to plow when the warm breezes returned from the north, the south. No farmer to bring the hay into the barn. No farmer to work in his garden on a nice day. The weeds grew in the barnyard. The shingles fell out of the roof. The paint peeled off the sides, and squeaky mice made nests in the old hay. Bonnie Bess kept turning around and around in the wind, first this way, then that way, as the wind and the weather changed. One day a hunter used her for a target and shot a hole in her side. A boy threw a rock and bent her tail, but still she turned. One winter night it snowed. The snow piled higher and higher and grew heavier and heavier until the old barn roof caved in. Down tumbled Bonnie Bess into a snowbank. In the middle, where the weather vane. In the spring, when the snow melted, she lay in a ditch by the side of the road. A fat bullfrog sat beside her and sunned himself, and the grasses and flowers made quiet growing sounds as they pushed up through the mud toward the sun. Then one summer afternoon, an old man with a droopy mustache and a corncob pipe came along the road in a rattly truck. He spied Bess almost buried in a tall clump of daisies. He stopped his truck and picked her up. "A very fine horse," he said, and he brushed her off and straightened her tail. "Guess I'll take her along." He bounced over the road until he came to a tumble-down shack with a sign over the door which said, "Junk Shop. I buy and sell everything. James Wiggins, proprietor, owner." A wooden Indian and an old sewing machine with a stuffed owl on top stood in front of the shack, and two wagon wheels leaned against the door. Inside, the shop was so filled with tables, tools, dishes, books, and old pieces of iron, there was scarcely room to turn around. The man climbed up on a broken chair and hung Bonnie Bess on the wall near a barber pole, a rusty gun, an old-fashioned bicycle, a cuckoo clock, and a picture of a famous aviator, Amelia Earhart. The dust settled down, and a spider spun a web. Catch the spider web way up here. Amelia Earhart was a famous aviator, and she flew alone, and one day decided she would fly around the world, around the earth, stopping along the way. She flew from California over the Pacific Ocean and disappeared. Then one day, a man wearing blue overalls and a big straw hat came into the shop looking for some tools. Suddenly he looked up and saw Bonnie Bess, and he said, "That's just the weather vane for my barn." The junk shop man wrapped her in newspaper, and the farmer took her home to his farm. And there was the very same barn she had been on for 100 years or more. But the roof was straight again. The shingles were nailed down, the sides had a new coat of paint, and the barnyard was alive with cows and horses and chickens. The farmer climbed up on a ladder and put Bonnie Bess back on top of the cupola. And she's there right now, turning round and around in the wind, north, south, east, and west. The farmer just looks to see which way she's trotting. Then he knows if he should take in his hay or work in his garden. He says, "She's the smartest horse in the county." Now you may have noticed that the black cat was key to the story from the beginning with Bonnie Bess. And then when the farmer moved away, you might have thought the kitty left also because we didn't see her for a while. Then when the new farmer came, Kitty was back on the farm again. So there you have it. On Friday, I'll be reading a story that is geared mainly for 4th and 5th graders, but there's something in that story also as this for everyone. Thank you, and see you again Friday.